Hi everyone, today we talk about the woman material psychologically faster than men. Let's look at the relevant research evidence. So what is the difference in psychological maturity between man and woman? Our behavior, way, and thinking, emotion are all controlled by the brain. The brain structure and operation mode of the man and woman are different in physiological, which is the physiological reason for our psychology maturity. So why do we have to discuss these differences? Recognizing the woman mature faster than man's psychology is not to say that there are advantages or disadvantages between the man and woman, but to say that we should admit this difference and give more understanding and consideration to people of the different gender. In the sense of the humanism, it gives tutorance and attention to both man and woman from the angle of the physiological and the psychology. So the first evidence comes from the emotional differences. Existing studies generally show that women usually score higher than the man in the standard test of the emphasis score, sensitivity, and emotional recognition. And women also have a higher complexity and difference in expressing emotional experiments. These findings are also supported by the physiological factors in the field of the cranial nerves. Cahill and the Pavic published studies in 2001 and 2005 respectively, which confirmed that there are gender-related differences in brain function. Man and woman may at least partially use different cognitive and emotional progressing strategies, which may lead to the gender differences in empathy. For the differences, cognitive emotional processing strategies of the man and the woman, scholars put forward the brain characteristic of the typical male and typical female. The former is characterized by the brain systematic ability be superior to empathy, while the latter is opposite. In the neuroimaging research of the later generations, the research data also provide new evidence for view that the neural network supporting empathy is regulated by the gender differences. Results show that women's better empathy ability is related to their increasing dependence on human emotional neural network when evaluating other people's emotional state and their emotional action to other people's feeling. In contrast, the man confirms better recruitment in Tom-related field. Therefore, they may rely on a more cognitive strategy, especially when decide their emotional reaction to other feelings. According to this, we can know the woman measure faster than man in physiological and emotional aspect. So the second evidence comes from the cognitive aspect of the psychology. Social connection includes the ability to represent in intention and the beliefs of others, and the beliefs to share and recognize other people's emotion. Existing evidence shows that the women have advantages in recognizing other people's emotion and mental states, as well as understanding and share other feelings. In fact, previous studies emphasized that women are more accurate than men in recognizing facial expressions, especially negative emotions such as fear and sadness. Similar, compared with a man, women seems to express other people's mental state more accurately, especially in some tasks involves emotional factors, and this seems to show a higher emphasis tendency. In deep studies show that these differences may be related to the human hormones. That is, a production of the hormones can affect the emotional response, thus affecting the implementation of the social connective task. For example, hormones secreted by the woman during ovulation and lactation will affect the psychological state of the individual. In addition, studies in the field of the brain science confirm the difference of the brain activity between the male and female, and provides the activation of the left amygdala and the right temporal pole increasing in male. But no area in male brain was more active than the female brain. In addition, studies in the field of the brain science have confirmed the difference in brain. The last piece of the evidence comes from schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is serious mental disease characterized by the basic personality change, the sleep, the thinking, and the emotion and behavior, and the disharmony between the mental activity and environment. In study of the gender differences in schizophrenia patients, it found that the female patients usually have a good social adaptation and the social and psychological information formatation ability. While the male patients often have the problems such as the social withdrawal, difficulty in recognizing negative expression, and social maladjustment. That is to say, among schizophrenic patients, women usually have a better emotional thinking ability, which means they are better at establishing emotional connect with others. So according to this finding, if the woman cognitive, emotional, and thinking ability are still better than men in schizo patients with impaired psychological functions, it may indicate the woman may able to develop good psychology functions faster in most people. So their psychology functions are generally better than men. So now we talk about the pros and cons. The first evidence is concerned, although it gives strong argument from the phenomenology and physiology, but the disadvantages is most cultural contexts, women are more willing to express their feelings and emphasize with others than men. So the emotional expression of the man and women is influenced by the social desirability, which makes people appear the women have strong emotional abilities than men. The second evidence, the advantage is lies in the research support from aspect of the cranial nervous cells, which makes the argument more convincing. But the disadvantages lie in the most of the research in the field of the cranial nervous is carried out in the lab. It's hard to use kinds of the machinery for the physiological measurement in a laboratory, and this kind of the experiment is limited by the cost and the most small sample experiment. So the ecological validity of the experimental is also not too high. Finally, the third evidence is a typical physiological gender differences and analysis comprising man and woman. But what is certain is that this compression is limited to the special group of the schizophrenic patients, and the conclusion is not universal. We can only infer according to this argument, but can't extend it to all the people. So conclusions, the pro and cons of the evidence. The advantages is the adjustment is in line with the reality the man and woman are psychologically mature in society. But the disadvantages and also the conclusion have a reliable evidence from the brain neuroscience, and they have a high credibility. But the disadvantages is we can't judge whether the woman's innate psychology maturity is faster than men, or whether they are influenced by the social, cultural, and gender stereotypes, which leads them to subconsciously tell themselves they should research psychological maturity fastly. Although there still have some questions not to be answered from the authoritative point of the view, the conclusion that women are more female than men is more convincing, as well as evidence from the neuroscience and schizophrenia patients strongly support and the conclusion that women are faster in psychological materials than men. This is a reference list.